Welcome, beautiful people, to my channel where we deep dive into a little bit of everything. We're all about fun, shady reviews, candid conversations, and honest social commentary. But remember, this is a safe space where we aim to have a good time. Our opinions are all in good fun, and remember, no offense or harm is ever intended. I'm your girl, Tammy. Hit that subscribe button and let's get started. Hello, and welcome back, beautiful people. We are on Ready to Love, Season 8, Episode 8. Thank you for joining me again. I appreciate it. I love y'all. Thank you for everybody who's newly subscribed. Thank you for people who are listening for the first time. Won't you subscribe? And I just love the way that we are getting through this season. I feel like this season has actually been one of the easiest seasons that we've had in terms of like the ease of the dates, the calmness of the dates. But I don't know if y'all feel like it's because ain't nobody really connecting, because that's how I kind of feel too. But outside of the ladies lounge and a little bit of the drama there, I genuinely am enjoying this season. I also have to say kudos to the ladies of Dallas. They are probably, to me, the best dressed season of women on the show. And that's not shade to everybody from 1 through 7, but I just really feel like the ladies of Dallas have really been pulling out all of the stops. I think everybody looks phenomenal. I love seeing the different body types. I love seeing the different styles. I really haven't had an issue. Everybody looks pulled together. Everybody looks snatched when they go out on dates. They look fantastic. I'm questioning the weather. Dallas seems to be up and down. Somebody got turtleneck on one time. Somebody got on boots. Somebody got on shorts. Somebody got on a bikini. I don't know. But either way, whatever they're wearing, the women are looking phenomenal. So I just have to say kudos to the women in the ladies' lounge. And this week in the ladies' lounge, Tommy is asking the women about their connections. And specifically, he's saying that he knows how difficult it was for them to meet the exes last time. And so he understands that it can be weird, but he also thinks that it's important for people to understand people's past and also get an idea of, if everything is matching up. And he says this week, he wants the women to get deeper insight from people that know them by the men meeting their BFFs. So this week, the men are going to be meeting the women's besties. And so the women are like, okay, we're open to that or whatever. It's a very short ladies' lounge, but I will say this. Miss Lee, honey, we know she comes with the body. We know she's a fitness girl. She comes with the body. But I tell you, Tommy was looking at that leg from when she walked in to when she walked out, and he mentioned that leg more than once. So that was interesting. A little dramatic, like little uncle energy. It's like, Tommy, where you coming from with this? But it was still nonetheless really cute. And Lee looked phenomenal. Like I said, all the ladies were dressed really well. And so we know this week we're meeting their best friends. So our first date up is Kat's BFF, Allie. That's who we're meeting for this besties date. And her people are going to be Herbert and Phil that she links up with to see if she's a good match. When we first meet Allie, she's very interesting. She's definitely giving Black girl from another world energy. Is definitely giving questionable in the sense that they're around the same age. I believe Kat is in her mid-30s. So the bestie kind of looked very high schoolish to me. She definitely gave Hot Topic energy, if you know that store at all in the mall. It definitely was a little out of this world, but I will say that I enjoy that there was another aesthetic on television. We do act like Black people fit a monolith, and even though she's a bit older, there are alternative Black girls. There are Black girls that don't fit into the aesthetic of whatever we think they should be, and Black women. We are a divergent group of people, and so it was okay with that. But what's annoying me more than anything was their voices together. That Valley Girl energy voice was just too much. It was giving Kardashian. It was giving nasal. It was just giving a lot together. It gave high school energy, and that was further cemented when Phil walked in dressed like everybody's favorite professor, and they proceeded to do this Alley Cat routine, like, hey, I'm Allie, I'm Cat, and together we are Alley Cat. It was very much Babysitter's Club. It was giving Riverdale energy, and I did not understand what was going on. Phil was also annoyed, and I assume very warm, because what they were wearing and what he was wearing was two different seasons. And he proceeded to say that he was happy they only did that once because he would not be open to it again. So Phil has a seat. He's saying hello. He's meeting Allie and he's talking with Kat a little bit. And then Herbert walks in, surprising to all of us, at least to me. Who even knew they had a connection? So Herbert walks in looking like production just asked him could he drive by there on his way to the gym. And he proceeds to have a seat and sit down. The conversation was pretty regular. Allie's asking both of them questions about how they feel about Kat and if they want children. Phil gives a very good answer, but it also feels a little rehearsed, and Allie picks up on that in relationship to how he feels about Kat, and what's so great about dating him. And then she proceeds to ask Herbert the same thing, and Herbert says, "Hey, it's me. That's what the difference is." When I tell you, Herbert's energy was very much, "I'm just here so I won't get fined." Everything gave Marshawn Lynch, "I could care less" energy. "I'm just here so I won't get fined," and that was how his answers gave. Again, I did not know Herbert and Kat even had a connection. So it feels like this was definitely just a setup of let's just bring as many people as we can on this date, no matter if they have a connection or not. She proceeds to ask him about children. Allie says that she's open, obviously, because Kat doesn't have any kids. Phil says he's open to having another child because he already has a son, and Herbert doesn't have any kids and he's open to having children. Allie then proceeds to ask, "Hey, if Kat gets pregnant and she has a child, are you okay with just supporting her solely and not if she decides not to work?" Phil says yes, but he says that he wants to make sure that that's what she wants and not just something that he's imposing upon her because she's now the mother to his child and his wife. And then Herbert says something similar, but it was all kind of like, "Girl, I don't want to be here." Phil then proceeds to leave and said he has to go pick up his kid. And Allie is continuing to ask questions to Herbert. But Herbert flips the script and starts asking questions to Allie. And so he asks her, why is Katrina single? And she gives a standard answer about, she just hasn't found the right person that's ready for her. And in that moment, kind of Phil pulls back and we see a green screen and he kind of talks about how he felt like that specific answer was had no depth. But in honesty, neither one of them had any depth because Phil Herbert could not care. He could care less about being there, and Allie is just sort of asking questions that aren't necessarily specific. It was just light answers. He was clear that he was annoyed by the BFF, and he starts going back and forth with her with the different questions. He then exits stage left, and Kat proceeds to ask Allie, how does she feel about both men? Allie says that she likes Phil because he seems more serious and more on point, but Kat says even though you like how he speaks, he has not been coming through with the exact actions. And of course, Allie doesn't see it for Herbert. So next up, y'all, we got our girl Aries. And so Aries is with her BFFs, Lacey and Steven, and Lacey is the guy, and they are there to meet Chris and Phil. This date to me was a little telling about the men's feeling competition wise. It also gave me a little bit more insight into Chris, and I'm still starting to feel less and less impressed by him. So Chris, comes in, says hello. Eventually, Phil comes in, and Chris, they start to ask questions right away. It's the same rigmarole. Every date is going to be like this. They ask Chris how he feels about Aries. Chris says that Aries is peaceful and calm. And Phil, to me, gave a more authentic answer. Phil basically said that they kind of met. He kind of goes into how they connected and then like how he feels about her. Again, I just feel way more connection with Phil and Aries than I do with Chris. And I think Aries feels the same way. Chris's answer to me also still feeds right into what I've been saying about how he feels about women in general. And I think he is really pigeonholing Aries into this calm, peaceful person without giving her room for any depth or any difference and how she is as a woman. So a lot of his energy around her has been about mothering and nurturing and calm and peaceful. But I'm sure that this woman has another side to her. I'm sure she's not quiet all the time. I'm sure she has different energy. And it doesn't feel to me like he's giving a chance for the women to be anything once he paints them a certain way. He only sees her as calm and peaceful. He only sees Jessica as a certain way. And I feel like he's painting them into like this bubble of what he thinks a wife should be or what he thinks he wants his woman to be. And it sounds to me a lot like what he did to his ex and what we saw with that energy last week. The friends proceed to say, what about her lifestyle? Do you think that you would be able to keep up with, what she's got going on? Chris says, yes, he's a dad. He understands like the whole familial thing. And he also runs that whole provider role about how he's stable in his career. He's a go-getter and all that kind of stuff. They asked Phil the same question. Phil says yes, he's open. He understands that she's a strong woman. He appreciates that in her. He says that it took him a while to find out what he wanted to do, and he proceeds to kind of break down, some job changes that he's had. That does raise the red flag, similar to what it did with Kira last week. And we are starting to wonder, does Phil jump too often? I can't tell for sure if Phil is like a job hopper, where it could be like an unstable situation, or where it took him a while to find what he wanted to be. But I can understand how that would be a red flag for a lot of people, because you still want to make sure that a person is stable, especially if you're talking about being in a serious relationship where kids are involved and you want to lock it down. We know that Aries is successful in her own right in her career, but we want to make sure that Phil is not somebody who, like, 6 months from now is going to go, I don't want to work here no more. And now the income changes drastically in the household. So Aries is going to have a little bit more thinking to do. She says she does have a stronger emotional connection to Phil, but she is a little worried about some of the things that came up in regards to, like, the stability situation. She said that Chris sort of stepped it up. Her friends said that they think that Chris is husband material. They're not sure about Phil. But I think the husband material line came in because of the provider part. And again, even with the provider and that being a positive thing in a relationship, it is so critical that the other parts are met. Because we do know is that Aries is not broke. She has a job. I believe she works in tech sales. She makes good money. So I don't think it's an issue of her being able to afford her life. But I think if we only look at the provider part and we don't look at the other emotional parts that need to be there, the other positive parts, the pouring in parts, which are all things that Chris's ex said he lacked in their relationship and made her have to just give so much, then she could also be, hard up either way. So Aries has some more stuff to think through. In this next round, we have two dates going back to back. That kind of happened when we met the exes last time. So they're interchanging us between Janelle and Lee. And Janelle is meeting with her friend, Quinn. I want to make sure I get that right, because Quint is the guy and then Quinn is the friend. And Herbert and Quentin are going to meet her friend Quinn. And then Lee has her friend Muffin, who is her BFF, and she's just going to meet Quinn. So Janelle has two guys meeting her best friend, and then Lee has one guy meeting her best friend. I'm going to go over Janelle's date first because I was the one that kind of came up first, and then we'll kind of go through Lee's, even though they switched back and forth with us for the scenes. So Janelle's BFF is named Quinn, beautiful woman. Almost all the friends, I feel like everybody this season just has looked fantastic that's come in and been like a advisor. Beautiful, beautiful Black people. Anyway, her friend Quinn has been married for 13 years. And she's like there to meet the men. She kind of is talking to Janelle in the beginning about what she's looking for and, what the interest might be. So Quint comes in first, all smiles per usual. The friend says hi. She hugs him. Herbert comes in next, and Herbert brings a gift. And when I tell you, Quint's face was like, damn, like I should have bought a gift. It was utterly hilarious to see. You could tell like the competitive part of him was like, damn, he got one up on me. And you could tell Herbert kind of bought that gift for Janelle because he says it's a self-care gift with some things in it. But it also is a little bit of a throw towards Quentin, and you could tell it made him feel sore. So Janelle's happy for the gift. She says thank you. And they just start talking. So you could tell men are definitely really in the competition with each other. So the friend asks, how do they feel about Janelle and a woman like her? And Herbert, repeats what he said last week, that she's a thug, but he enjoys that. He enjoys, who she is as a person. And, he knows he can handle that situation. But he appreciates who she is, and they have, great conversation and yada, yada. She asked Quentin the same question. And I think this is, again, where Quentin's maturity came into play. And when we see the part of him that while being a young person with young energy, because he's in his like early to mid 30s, you also just see there's a maturity to him. So how he answers the question is he basically says that he brings out the softer sides of the parts that he sees in her. But he said he also understands that she has an energy that, is once you get to know it, you know who she is and what she's about, but it definitely could rub some people the wrong way, but he can handle that. And that was just such a grown answer. And I think that really was the thing that immediately won over her best friend. He just gave a better answer towards the situation, quite frankly. And I think it also won over Janelle in that moment. Quinn's answer was simply just better. They continue to talk about kids and the timeline. A friend asked them. Quentin says that, he's not interested in anything super long either. with if the situation is right, he doesn't have a problem in moving, taking action. Herbert says that he's a little slower. He wants to take more time to get to know someone. I don't know what his timeline looks like, and I think that's really the issue for Janelle. I don't know that it's necessarily about being married by the end of the year. I think that's what she said, but I don't think she's stuck on that at this age. But I do think she wants to know he has a timeline. And what we haven't established in the last episode and in this episode is, does he have one? Like, granted, okay, you need more time, but are you trying to get that time in 3-4 years? Because they are a bit older. And I think that that's something that is different and that Janelle is taking into consideration with him. So at the end, Janelle talks to Quinn. Quinn basically says that although Herbert is cool, she doesn't think things are matching up. Janelle does mention that Herbert is still moving slow on some things, and that pacing is kind of uncomfortable for her. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the woman expressing that and not lying to herself about it versus pretending like that doesn't matter to you. And so her friend Quinn likes Quentin. She says he's mature. She loved his answer. She loved how he really saw all the sides of her friend, and that's her preference for her. This date, y'all, I can't really tell who was on this date. Lee has us meet her BFF, Muffin, who she's known for many, many years, and she is, of course, meeting Quint. Now, I'm going to say this. I feel like, and y'all tell me, drop down in the comments, let me know, but did y'all feel like Muffin might have been crushing on Quint? It felt a bit uncomfortable, and it honestly felt like, girl, maybe you should be side-eyeing your friend. Because your friend is there to check out your man. She is not there to be checking him out. At least not in the physical sense. Like, it's okay to think he's handsome and nice, but I kind of feel like she fell for him. And she didn't even care at that point about whether or not she was there for Lee. And Lee felt the same way at the end. So Quint meets Lee. Lee had a nice little spread set up for them. Very, very nice. And, they sit down and she's talking with her friend Muffin, and she's hoping her friend Muffin starts to unravel some of the questions that Lee has for Quentin, just to see if there's a deeper connection than what they already have known. So they start talking, and Quentin is bringing up things that he recalls from the conversation I think that they had earlier in the kitchen, where he basically says like, hey, so you guys have met, you've known each other for years. Where did y'all meet? And they met, and he realizes that they met in like the club or a nightclub years ago. And he's like, okay. And I didn't get that he had party energy, but just that he was trying to see what other sides to Lee exist. Y'all know how I feel about this situation. I think Lee is beautiful. I think seems like a nice lady, but she just gives me boring. And even if you're in your late 30s or 40s, even if you're a homebody, you have to have some type of life in you. You have to feel like you're somebody who's energetic. I feel like for her, it comes out in spurts, but she doesn't give it often every day. And I think that for a lot of the men, that's where there wasn't a connection, because she just didn't give a lot of life. There was no pulse. There was no energy. So her friend Muffin explains that, she's not really a club girl or anything like that. And Quentin's like, okay. And she's like, in fact, she's a grandma, but she's more like a fine grandma. And it was like, you're not really describing your friend great girl. Like, tell us about her personality, whatever other things that she's into personally. And he was trying to get to know her more, but it just wasn't anything coming out. Lee wasn't helping the situation. There was nothing that he gathered, and I really gathered from this scene, that suggests that Lee is really social. And then also Lee is feeling like Muffin ain't gathering shit, but keep looking at Quentin. So she's not really answering the question. She's not really getting anything from him. And at one point she loses her train of thought because she's just looking at him. And essentially, Quentin says he has to go. He leaves. Lee's like, look, girl, you failed the assignment. What are you doing? Like, you didn't ask any real questions. I don't know more about this man than I knew before. And the only thing that we know is that you kind of think he's fine. And that's not really what you were here to do. So Muffin failed her friend and had the nerve to stay for breakfast. So next is our girl Sierra, and I love that Sierra is back with the blonde hair, y'all. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I hated that wig. I wanted to burn that wig. So I'm really, really happy that we see her back with the blonde hair. It looks phenomenal on her. She looks better. Even when she walked in, she just looks more on point with the hair. And Sierra's a style girl, a fashion girl. So it was just nice to see the hair fall in line, because that ombre Beyonce wig she had on, it was horrible. Anyway, Sierra is meeting up with her BFFs, Dalton and Olivia, and I couldn't tell if they were a couple, that they were just friends. I couldn't tell. They were dressed, matching up each other. It was very, very cute. And they're there to meet Marie and Herbert. Again, Herbert is on another date, and I never got a feeling that him and Sierra had a really strong connection. And I could have swore in the men's lounge last week that Herbert had kind of said that Sierra wasn't serious. So I'm like, why are you here? And again, it feels like production is actually playing games. And I'm gonna say this: I feel like next week, as we're gonna get to that part later on, but I definitely think that they set up a lot of that house vacation situation to be dramatic, because the connections that are showing up in some of these places just don't make any sense. So Herbert comes in. He's shocked to see Marie. He doesn't realize that Marie and Sierra have a connection. Herbert, we shocked to see you. We didn't realize you and Sierra had a connection. And they sit down and start asking questions. So, of course, the friends ask them about marriage. Maria gives a very serious question. He gives a serious answer about marriage and says that he's ready for children. He's ready for marriage. That's what he's there for, to find a wife. Herbert kind of says that he definitely wants to find a partner. And, he really is into Sierra. I feel like Mario gave a better answer as to why he thought Sierra was a wife that he could possibly have. Herbert said he wants to take his time. He's definitely interested in finding someone serious, but he does want to take his time. And we know how Herbert's timeline is. It's as slow as I don't know what. When they kind of finished the date, Dalton and Olivia basically said that they feel like Herbert is a ladies' man, that he's just there for a good time, possibly with many of the women. And they felt like that Marie was more husband material. Herbert's certainly fun, and Sierra says that he is. I think she's kind of into his height and, just his energy, but they ultimately feel like Marie is a person she should try to see if there's more going on. So Jessica is meeting up with her best friends, Tony and Nala. And Tony and Nala are set to meet Chris and Marie. Chris and Jessica have been having a struggle situation, especially since last episode. And I'm not really sure why he's here. Chris seems unenthused before he even walks in the door. And we know Jessica and Marie had a little bit they hit a rough patch. They've had a great chemistry and conversation up until last week when he tried to pull out those tarot cards. So Marie feels like he's a little bit on an apology tour, but he also does still really like Jessica. So Chris walks in again. We're in the same season now. I'm seeing everybody mostly have a sweater on and long sleeves, so I'm assuming it's cold. And one of the things I noticed most from this date was that I saw Jessica came in so energetic with her friends. Like, she was happy to see them. She was, vivacious with them. She was like, "Hey," she walked in. You can definitely tell she's a lively, positive, upbeat person. So I don't really, again, understand Chris's issue on the strong thing, because she just gave me that she's like full of life. I feel like maybe Chris is just a dead individual. I don't know. Um, so Chris walks in, he has a hat on, he kind of sits down, he has a little scully on, he eventually takes it off. And then Marie walks in. Marie brings her, I think, flowers and a gift, and just an apology to her for last week and the whole situation that happened. He said he doesn't apologize for who he is and what he believes, but he apologizes for springing it on her and not really giving her full context as to, what was going to happen, and making sure she was comfortable. So it was very classy. They start having a conversation. I love the friends on these dates. Nobody was really antagonistic or angry, but they definitely drilled in. Even Kat. I'm sorry. Even Kat's friend Allie was really like that. I appreciate that the friends were cool, calm, and collected, but they did not let them just get away with anything. They asked the real questions. So Tony and Nala proceed to ask questions to the guys. They start asking questions about, Jessica. And it's clear that Jessica has talked to her friends about the things with the guys, which makes sense. Like, those are her best friends. She's going to tell them what's going on in these dates. And it's also important to remember that they're there to find out more about the man and determine if he's right for them. So bringing up some of the things that have occurred in their dates makes just complete sense. They ask about how they feel about Jessica's strength in her, her side as being an outgoing woman, an outspoken woman. And, Chris states that he's uncomfortable a little bit with the fact that they know that information, which means that she's been talking to her friends. I mean, duh, what else would she be doing? And, he proceeds to not answer at first, which was super weird. her friend had to actually, I think Tony had to go back in further and kind of get like, hey, we talking to you, wake up. And finally, Chris gives some BS answer about the fact that he likes who she is and her success, but he wants to see her softer side. That same stuff that he's been running. Marie says he appreciates all sides of her. He understands that she is complex, like any other woman would be. He appreciates the strength in her because he's also a strong person. And he likes that she takes that energy into what she does. But he also realizes that she's fully like a feminine woman when she needs to be kind of energy. And Marie just gave a real well rounded answer. And it's clear that him and Jessica have constant communication and that they talk more. And he's gotten to know who she is and cares about knowing who she is. Um, the friends then go on to say, emotional support is important. And I noticed that Jessica also brought that up. And, where are you on being supportive and where are you on being in tune with your own feelings and who you are? Somewhere along the way, I believe the question comes up about therapy. Morier says that he is in therapy, or he brings up the fact that he's in therapy and in touch with who he is, because when his father passed, he just thought it was important to start unraveling things about himself more and making sure that he was in touch with his feelings around losing his dad, but also with who he is as a man so that he can grow. They asked Chris, he says that he's in virtual therapy, but you can kind of tell that I wasn't sure if that was the truth or not. I feel like Chris is one of those people that's very competitive. And so when Mario said it, he immediately needed to say something similar. But I didn't get that he took it as serious as Mario did in terms of the importance of therapy. To be honest, I low key don't be trusting nobody who say therapy, because I be feeling like now that everybody talks about therapy and it's such a constant conversation around mental health, I feel like people be low key abusing the concept of therapy and therapy words to be manipulative, but that's just me. Um, but both men talk about how important it is. And I believe Chris leaves first and says he has to go pick up his daughter. I genuinely just think he wanted to leave because he didn't want to be there. It's clear that he is locked in on Aries. And I wish they would stop throwing him on these dates with Jessica, because I feel like every time that he speaks about her, it's such a negative energy around the fact that he's just not comfortable being around a woman who has any like type of voice outside of him. So I forgot to tell y'all. So at the end of Jessica's date, the friends, she asked Tony and Nala how they feel about the guys. They state that, with them with Chris, Tony just wasn't feeling that Chris took forever to answer the questions about Jessica. And he feels like he just doesn't see it there. They like Marie. They feel like he's more of a husband type guy, and they feel like he's more open and knows her better. So now we're back at the ladies lounge. And again, y'all, the ladies in Dallas have just been killing it. Everybody looks fantastic. I just really don't feel like, the women, even with Kara with the white boots, I feel like the women really don't miss when it comes to this. Hair looks great. Makeup is always on point. The ladies look fantastic. So they're in the lounge again, talking about, per usual with Tommy, how their dates went and how everything went down. He sort of goes around the room like per usual. Lee says that her BFF was very mesmerized by Quint. We always side eyeing situations like that. Janelle says that her friend Quinn likes Q and thinks that Herbert is a bit of a slick talker and may just not be on the proper timeline for serious relationship. Jessica says that the energy with Chris is just stuck. It's just not moving. The friends did not get from them that there was a connection, that he was giving a lot of effort, but they did like Marie. Sierra says Marie was the friend said that he was husband material and that Herbert was probably just there for a good time. And Aries says that the friends like both Chris and Phil. They did feel like Chris was a little bit more grounded and that Phil may be a little flighty when it comes to the stability of his career, but that she still has a strong connection with Phil and she wants to see kind of where that goes. Kat basically says that Allie was like, look, ain't nobody here for you. So you're going to have to just, explore more or get the hell out, because ain't nobody here for you. So then Tommy proceeds to ask the ladies, who are they not feeling? A resounding circular answer was Phil, or I'm sorry, Herbert. So everybody pretty much says that they just feel like Herbert, and not just them, but their people have said that Herbert might be a slick talker. And interestingly, when Janelle was bringing up what her friend said, because we saw her friend say it after the date, a lot of the women said, my friend said the same thing too. Like they're echoing as she's speaking. So it made sense that when the women were now saying that Herbert was in that round, that he was, because a lot of them has been saying that he's fun, he's charismatic, but he doesn't seem that serious, and he just seems like he's a slick talker and a ladies' man. Um, they also mentioned, some people say that they don't have a connection with Chris. Jessica says that she doesn't think Chris is emotional in the way that he claims to be. She's not sure that he has a problem with like how she speaks up, and he's just not been given that effort. Aries said that she's had an opposite experience, but Janelle echoes in that she thinks that Chris has a problem with any woman who is stronger than him, any woman who speaks up or who is assertive, and specifically anybody who has their own voice. And he is uncomfortable around topics like that. And I know that Janelle is a controversial people for many people on the show, but honestly, Janelle said what his ex said. His ex just said it differently by saying that, he expects you to serve him. He expects to be the person that's being fed into, that he expects, you to support him. But when it comes to you, you're not getting the same thing back. And I really do feel like that's why he likes Aries, because she doesn't really challenge him on anything that he says. And even when the ex said that last week about him with the servitude, she's like, "Oh, you gave a great answer." And it's like, girl, what? He didn't even answer the question. And that should have been a red flag for you when you heard the servitude thing. So it just gives that she's ignoring that for whatever reason. And I honestly feel like Chris is using Jessica to get to the house and to the end, because Chris doesn't have any other connections besides Aries and Jessica. Without Jessica, he has no other connections besides Aries. And that could land him in a bottom spot, which it kind of did today. But you can tell that that's the way that he's bridging the situation. No other woman is into him, provider or all, except for Aries and now Jessica. And I feel like he already knew an episode back he wasn't interested in Jessica and should have ended it, but then he would only have Aries to cling to for the next couple of episodes. And that might have put him on the chopping block. So that was an interesting dynamic. Tommy announces the girls right then and there that they're going to be doing the girls trip coming up. So that's our next episode. And then we go to the elimination dates. Finally, we at the end of this train, and Herbert and Chris are the two guys up for elimination. Herbert meets with Kat and Chris meets with Aries, which I thought was a complete waste, because by meeting with Aries, I think we didn't get a full picture of the issues that the women had, because she just basically, you know, I don't know, nurtured him. She didn't really give him any insight, and he gave a BS answer. He was just so happy to be on a date with her. I feel like she was the worst person possible to go meet with him. I think whenever they do these ladies' lounges and then they decide on elimination on these men's lounges, I like when they have them meet up with somebody who can get through to them and maybe give a different perspective. When they have you meet up with a person that's your connection, I feel like the honesty is less. So I hated that Chris got softballed with Aries, because she really didn't check him on any of the behavior or any of the misogyny that he had going on. It was more like, "Oh, okay, they didn't like this about you, but I know you," kind of energy. And he was like, "Oh, I tried my best with them, but I guess I need to try hard." Like, it was so limited on him getting any actual lessons from it. Whereas I feel like when Kat met up with Herbert, he got more clarity. He definitely felt like he didn't do anything incorrect. I felt like he was being himself, but I feel like Kat offered more clarity, and I appreciated that from her. But I also think it came great because it was with somebody he had a connection with, but the connection wasn't as strong. And I think that she was honest with him. I feel like Kat just coddled Chris, and he learned nothing from the situation. Ultimately, they go back and forth about the different situations. They find that Chris is still ready to love. I'm assuming they just saving him for Aries, because it's clear that he's not interested in anybody else in the house, which would be totally fine. But there's a way that you sort of handle that situation and then take your chance that they'll keep you anyway, instead of dragging other people along if you're not interested. And then Herbert is told that he is not ready to love. I hate that, because I honestly think that Herbert would be more interesting in the house. I know that he's not a serious choice at this point, but genuinely, I think that the vacation trip is always fun when there are funner people there. And Chris doesn't give me fun. Herbert gives me fun. So that's the episode, y'all. It was okay. It was okay. We're moving right along. I don't know how many episodes of Ready to Love there's going to be and how long the reunion's going to be. I think the reunion is probably split into 2 episodes. That's what they normally do, unless it's really, really spicy. Um, I know that we probably have the vacation house coming up, and then it might just be like the process of meeting people. So at best, I'm going to assume that we're getting 11 to 10 episodes of the regular season, or 10, 11 episodes of the regular season. And then we're going to go into the reunion. Let me know what y'all think. So comment down below. I appreciate y'all for watching and hanging out with me one more episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all in the next one.